where today what we're going to be talking about is the journey to world-class asset management. And one of the things that I like to help our customers with is beginning with the end in mind. A maintenance management software is not really designed to just simply check boxes for audits and compliance. It's great for that, don't get me wrong. It can definitely do that. But if you are interested in moving from a reactive to a proactive environment where you have less breakdowns and a safer environment, and it's more productive, more profitable, higher quality production, then I think we need to change our mindset. And I want to introduce to you guys today something that we have come up with is just a way to think that on this journey to world-class asset management. So I am going to pull up my screen and just walk through some concepts. You have to forgive me. Today's going to be a little bit of a PowerPoint presentation, but I think you guys will find it helpful. So let me share this. All right. So this is what we call the journey to optimal asset performance. And when we look at this, I wanted you guys to notice a couple things. The asset performance is directly related to the organizational culture. At Express Maintenance, we talk a lot about culture. We talk a lot about the things that drive culture, everything from leadership and KPIs and individual roles and responsibilities and SOPs and all of that. One thing we have found that is that great leaders of organizations create a great maintenance culture. It's proactive, it's safe, they have less attrition just because of the culture has been changed. And so this organizational culture will directly impact the performance of your assets. So if you struggle with what you can see here is the rewards of short-term savings, but you have this decaying asset culture, or maybe you're in this, you have lots of overtime. You have people with this hero mentality of, they just like fixing things. They like being that hero. They're kind of a little ambiguous or even resistant to the discussion of going proactive because it takes them off out of their place as being this hero for the company. You're experiencing lots of breakdowns, low quality product. Maybe it's high cost related to express shipping of parts because you're not managing parts very well. Or maybe you're at the next level where you're experiencing, you've kind of gotten beyond that reactive culture. Now you're dealing with planning and being more proactive, starting to get into competitive advantage and organizational discipline, and then best in class. Maybe world class isn't everybody's goal, but I can tell you that one thing everybody shares is they don't want to work in a stressful environment. And what will determine whether or not your environment is stressful is whether or not you are being proactive about improving your organization. And so how do we change things? Well, first we have to know where we're at, and then we have to paint a path forward. And we like to say that you begin with the end in mind. And so you can see here at the very top, the vision is going to required maintenance. And what I mean by that is we don't see maintenance just as an expense. I know from top level down, it's definitely not an asset, but it shouldn't just be an expense. It should be considered a high value to the company, because if maintenance goes, so goes the asset, so goes production quality, safety, and everything else. And so we want to drive home this idea that there are some things that are required. And so it's not just preventive maintenance, it's required maintenance. It's not just predictive maintenance, it's required maintenance. And it's because, and even your reactive maintenance is required maintenance. Because if we will elevate the discussion of maintenance to the level of it is required, then now we're having a different conversation that accesses different budgets and funds. You get different levels of leadership involved. And I think that's going to be important for a lot of you who are maybe in this regressive, reactive mode to start to bring more people into the conversation. And so the things that are fighting against that is what you see in the bottom green arrow, which is organizational entropy. And that's usually a result of poor leadership, aging assets and you have aging assets, but you don't have the right tools to determine where your biggest costs are, what equipment's failing most often. And so what we do is we inject technology and tools that help us get organized, be more efficient, and start to report on and give us, timely, actionable, and intelligent data on the ground truth of where we are. Without a maintenance management software like Express Maintenance, then you're just really guessing. And the best way that I can equate that is, and most of you will resonate with this. If you ever went to college or, just a young 20-something and you started making money and you didn't have a budget yet. And then one day you take a Dave Ramsey class or something and you realize, oh, I actually need to start budgeting. And then one of the first things they teach you is you need to actually track where all your money's going. And when you did that for the first time, you realize that half of your money is going to fast food. That was at least my experience. And what it told me was, okay, wow, I need to shift where I am spending my money and start to prioritize grocery shopping and some other things in order to be able to get more out of my life, more out of my time, more out of my resources, more out of my income, and start to be a more mature adult. Well, it's the same thing here in manufacturing. If you don't have a CMMS, and of course all of you do, or that CMMS is not being utilized, then you might as well not have one. And that's just like having a budget but not using it, and then getting frustrated because you have more month than money. And so keeping that in mind, what it takes is intentionality and being proactive. And so when it comes to the mentalities that drive these cultures that we talk about, the regressive culture is driven by this, don't fix the failure. It's you're running to failure. You've invested money in an asset and it produces for you. And you would rather just run it until it dies and then buy another one. That is a strategy. Some companies hold to that. But there's what we see there is that there's just short-term savings and a decaying culture. It doesn't provide a good culture for the employees. It's high stress, high attrition, high turnover, and it's just not a good environment for anybody long term. And then there's the fix it after failures. So this is where we react to the failures. And we have that overtime heroes and breakdowns like I talked about. But this mentality of fix it after failure is starting to get into better leadership, better management, and then we move into planned. And most of you are going to be somewhere between reactive and planned. You maybe got your CMMS, maybe you're doing some preventive maintenance, but it's still a high stress environment. We're trying to figure out why. And of course, there's so many different things that add to this environment other than just whether or not you're using your CMMS correctly. But anything that we can do to get ahead of the curve as far as if we can look at our mean time between failures, start to do some root cause analysis, what's causing that equipment to fail more often, then if we have that information, then we can be proactive about learning how to decrease our reactive culture, increase our proactive culture, and ultimately set us up to be able to move into that precision culture where we're not just fixing it, we're improving it. And then, of course, world class going beyond the plan. So when it comes to that, I'm going to skip this one. We'll come back to it if we have time. Typically, what we see is that in the journey to world class, you have at the top this regressive, reactive, and then reactive to and proactive, and then precision. That if you've never gone through a software implementation, if you just stepped into your role using Express Maintenance and you weren't part of the actual setup, then you can't really empathize with what I'm getting ready to say. But most people see that the implementation takes a lot more effort and energy than they originally realized. And so I like to share this with new companies that are evaluating Express Maintenance, because what it does is it says we want to set the proper expectation that right now you're current under the labor requirements, you're currently at like a 7 or an 8, and you are going to have to invest a whole lot more time, effort, and energy over the coming months just in order to get back to the place where you are at currently. But then, 12, 24 months from now, you're going to start to see the fruit of that proactive investment in the decrease of the stress on your assets, on your people, the increased quality, the decreased accidents, and better organization and efficiency, and reporting, which if you guys are a maintenance manager and you guys have KPIs, that is one of the things that one of your metrics of performance is the KPIs from Express Maintenance. And so there's that software purchase and implementation, and that takes an enormous amount of effort. And it takes the same amount of effort whether you stretch it out, or whether you compact it into a month or you stretch it out over a year. It's the same amount of effort to get the software implemented and trained on. But then you start to use it, and now you're starting to get the service history that can start to give you that timely, actionable, and intelligent data that you can start to use to make better business decisions. Then you move into continued usage and improvement, and you start to go through the asset management strategy lifecycle, which I'm getting ready to share with you. And that's when you start to develop these continuous improvement projects that ultimately make things work better for you. And then when you get into precision, now you're talking about software and culture mastery, KPI reporting, mean time between failure and mean time between repair, condition monitoring, predictive services. So next is that cycle that I just mentioned. It's the maintenance engineering strategy cycle, where you do a current state analysis, you identify your desired state, then you look at you start to develop some continuous improvement projects. And these are typically done with a goal of, you do these every quarter or every 6 months, and you're constantly evaluating. But after you have the project, you execute on that project, and then you hold yourself accountable through KPIs, spot checks, things like that. And then at the end of that, 3 to 6 months, whatever you set your goal to, you reevaluate your current state. You celebrate your wins from the last 3 to 6 months, but you start to look forward to the future. And this is something we do as a company. Every quarter, we do a evaluation of our current state. We look forward to our desired state, and we develop projects and we execute. And within the CMMS, you should have the service history that gives you the KPI reports that tell you where you're succeeding and where you're failing. And if you don't, then something else is wrong. We need to go back to the implementation, the training, somewhere in the setup process we missed a step, or we need to go back to it because you've had some attrition and people have forgotten how to use it or don't know how to use it, or it was set up improperly to begin with. But express maintenance should not be a difficult tool. It shouldn't be something that takes an enormous amount of time to manage. Once you have the vehicle that is express maintenance built, then you really should be able to get in the car. And when you turn the wheel and the wheels turn, you hit the gas and the car goes forward, you hit the brake and it stops. And then occasionally, you got to do some maintenance, which looks like adding some equipment when new equipment comes in, deactivating equipment when equipment is taken out of service, updating parts costs and things like that as necessary. But everything else should follow a workflow and a standard operating procedure. And those are things that we really enjoy helping you guys do. We'll send a maintenance engineer on site for a couple days to help you guys develop an SOP. It's a 9 to 11 page document that identifies how you use your maintenance management software to achieve your business and operational goals, and the different roles and responsibilities of everybody in your department, the different fields that are required in express maintenance, the workflow of your work order requests to work orders, how you're going to, whether or not you're going to automate or keep your PM services and converting them to work orders manual or not, how you're going to manage parts inventory, if you're going to allow your common stock to be managed by a vendor. All of that goes into your SOP, and then we help you guys develop a workflow. That's really foundational. If you don't have an SOP for your maintenance department, then there's really no standard except just something that's in your head, and that really should be unacceptable if you're trying to create a proactive maintenance culture, one that obviously would provide less stress and a safer environment. And so the last thing that I want to share with you is just this right here. And most people don't think about this when they think about their maintenance management software, is just how much express maintenance will impact all the other areas of your facility. As far as production is concerned, it allows for scheduled equipment downtime. One of the things production, and maybe some of you have as your KPIs, is your OEE. And express maintenance can't provide all of the information for your OEE, but it can provide you with availability, because you should be reporting downtime in your maintenance management software inside express maintenance. And so that can help you with your overall effectiveness. And then improve the quality of parts produced, increase uptime, improve repair time, decrease downtime. These are all things that maintenance positively impacts when it comes to production. And I can go through all of these on plant safety and compliance and profitability and all of that. But I just wanted to share this with you so that we can all come to this place where we realize that that express maintenance and your maintenance department, your team, is extremely valuable to us, but mostly to your plant, to your facility. So with that, that's all I really have today. It's mostly just wanting to start the conversation, elevate the conversation to where it needs to be, introduce this idea of required maintenance. And I would say that if this webinar has struck a chord and you're like, hey, we really like to talk to somebody about how we move from reactive to proactive, then I would schedule a discussion with me. Tim will put a link in the chat box that you can schedule a meeting with me, or a demo or a discovery call or a health check or whatever. But we could definitely get together and just talk about where are you at, where do you want to be, and what can we do with express maintenance as a tool to help you get there. So with that, I'll go ahead and stop the recording, and we'll take some questions.